None of the conclusions presented in this film should be taken as factual. They are all speculations put together using all available evidence.
I knew you would come.
Where are you?
I shall reveal myself to you when you are ready to see my fortress.
I need the Marquis of Montferrat dead.
Ah, Conrad.
Can I trust you?
No.
Can you help me?
Yes.
In April of 1192, renowned French politician and de facto King of Jerusalem, Conrad of Montferrat was killed, murdered by the infamous and deadly Hashshashin. But who was behind the scenes, pulling the strings of this orchestrated attack? As far as history is concerned, the identity of the murderer will never be discovered. The case involves a number of suspects with a number of motives, yet no clear lines connecting any one of them to the murder. So the question remains, after almost 1,000 years, who killed Conrad of Montferrat? Richard the Lionheart, ruler of England and its empire from 1189 to 1199. Known for his courage on and off the battlefield, and his commitment to God, it's hard to believe that someone with such an exemplary reputation would ever go so far as to hire a group of assassins to kill an enemy. Throughout time, Richard did not earn the name Lionheart by getting others to carry out his dirty deeds. For most of the Third Crusade, Richard had been busy leading his men to many battles, and was considered one of the greatest generals ever to take the battlefield. Yet, in the midst of commanding his forces in the Holy Land, Richard encountered another problem. Its name was Conrad. Conrad and Richard were two very different men. There are many reasons to believe that Richard had it out for the French Marquis, the first being their differences in opinions concerning prisoners of war. Conrad housed thousands of prisoners during his time in Tyre, disobeying Richard's orders to execute them on countless occasions. However, once Richard was given sole command of the crusading forces, Conrad was helpless in the matter and was forced to hand the slaves over to Richard. This ruthless act deeply offended Conrad, who soon began talks with Saladin, leader of the Saracen forces, about double-crossing Richard and the Crusaders. Conrad and the Saracens may have only been days away from reaching an agreement when Conrad was struck down. Conrad had been vying for the crown of Jerusalem in 1189 along with his political opponent and former king of Jerusalem, Guy of Lusignan, who had just been released by Saladin out of captivity after his capture in the Battle of Hattin.
Conrad, Guy is outside and he requests an audience.
Guy? But I was the one who was put in charge of the city by the divine hand of God. I do not wish to speak with Guy. He forfeited his right to be king at the Battle of Hattin. I refuse to make any changes to this kingdom until the king arrives. That is the end of that. Now go escort Guy out of the city. I'm through with this matter.
Conrad kept Guy out of Jerusalem for months until the kings from Europe came to the Holy Land, including Richard. Although most of the lords of Europe supported Conrad's bid for king, such as the leader of the Crusades at the time, King Philip II of France, Richard stood behind Guy. When Philip II left the Holy Land, Conrad was worried that Richard would try and pull Conrad out of power and reinstate Guy. In an attempt to stop Conrad from defecting and restore Guy to the throne, could Richard be the one who would meet with the assassins and organize Conrad's death? The Old Man of the Mountain. Leader of the famed and mystical Hashshashin, a group of highly trained killers active during the Third Crusade. A mastermind of controlling his underlings, the old man was successfully able to persuade his followers to obey his every instruction. The case for the Old Man on the Mountain doesn't come from hard evidence. Instead, it comes from reputation and myth. The Hashshashin were active almost 100 years before the assassination of Conrad. Their murderous deeds were things of legend, and many denied their existence. Their sole purpose was to restore order and peace to the Holy Land, the way the Old Man envisioned it, and that meant killing key influential members on both sides of the war, whether they were Crusader or Saracen. One thing is for certain, even if the Old Man is not the puppeteer behind this killing, he undoubtedly played a significant role. After all, it was his men that actually carried out the murder, which means the road to Conrad's death went through the Old Man, whether he envisioned it or not. Although this is reason enough to place the Old Man under suspicion of the murder, there is a particular event which occurred that placed the blame firmly on him. A letter, written in 1193, seems to place the fault firmly on the Old Man. The letter, said to be written by the Old Man himself, states that he was the one who killed Conrad because of an altercation with the French Marquis in 1191, where Conrad blockaded a couple of his ships in Tyre, killing the men aboard. This confession would fully incriminate the Old Man. However, this letter is most likely a forgery, as many historians claim, its origins coming from a year after the Old Man had already died. Just like all of the other evidence, along with all the other suspects, no finite conclusion can be made. The Old Man is certainly a prime suspect for Conrad's death. Henry, Count of Champagne, a noble man from a noble family. He was one of the first statesmen to arrive in the Holy Land, even before his uncles, King Philip II of France and King Richard the Lionheart. Unlike our other suspects, signs of Henry's guilt come after the murder of Conrad in Tyre. On April 26th, he was sent from Acre to Tyre to inform the Marquis of Montferrat that he was to be named King of Jerusalem. He informed Conrad of his impending crowning and then returned to Acre to Richard's camp. 2 days later, on the 28th, Conrad was murdered. When Henry returned to Tyre a few days later to begin preparations for the coronation, he heard the news of Conrad's death. Immediately, Henry was betrothed to Conrad's widow, Queen Isabella I of Jerusalem. 8 days later, because of his marriage to Isabella, Henry of Champagne would become King of Jerusalem and would rule until his death in 1197. The evidence against Henry does not come from eyewitness accounts or confession given during an interrogation. Henry's case lies within abnormalities, things that would be normally overlooked. Henry's evidence comes from his own guilty conscience. Henry was a fine king of Jerusalem, but he was odd. Most nobles and people of power at this time killed just for the title of king. Yet when signing any official documents, Henry always omitted the word king. Also, during public appearances, he would refuse to wear his crown. Historians have no reason why this may be, but we can speculate it is because it is not rightfully his. So who was it that killed Conrad? Could it have been Richard, fed up with Conrad's dealings with Saladin and the unwillingness to cede the throne of Jerusalem? Was it the old man of the mountain, who sent his men after Conrad, looking to restore peace and order to a divided Jerusalem? Or was it Henry of Champagne, whose motives lay chiefly in Frankish politics and rivalries, and in becoming the sole king of the Holy City? Henry, Count of Champagne, a noble man from a noble family, and the murderer of Conrad of Montferrat. Although the case against him doesn't come from hard evidence, his guilty conscience is more than enough to prove his guilt. It simply doesn't make sense why Henry refused to sign his name as king, or wear his crown. And how was he so aware and so prepared for Conrad's murder? Just 8 days after the murder, he was married to Isabella I, Conrad's widow. He left Tyre at the perfect time, not even being present in the city during the assassination, but conveniently showing up only a few days later. There are too many coincidences in Henry's case. Although history books may refuse to accept Henry's role in planning the assassination, by looking at all known evidence, the case is quite clear. Henry, Count of Champagne, killed Conrad of Montferrat.